Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Science Run. Of course, your host is always Buck with Scout back here on what is the first game week of the UFL. Who would have thought is kind of my main thing right now. I mean, Scout, uh, back in January when this was all announced, everyone was like, all right, it's going to be March, it's going to be the end of March, it's going to be the end of March. And now we're actually reaching the end of March. And I know I'm excited. I got everything booked. I'm going to Arlington. You're going to Arlington. I mean, I know we're both excited to do this episode also.
Yeah, going to Arlington, I think it'll be pretty fun. I've never been to Texas before. I know that was a shock to some people. But it should be cool. I'm staying right in that area near the Choctaw, so I think I'll be able to experience more of just then just the stadium and then having to go out of the city for the rest of the time. But I think it should be cool. Trying to convince my parents to go to because the Rangers have open or not their opening night, but their opening series, and Saturday night they have a game right across the street from Choctaw. But I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to do some stuff in Dallas while I'm there also. So really excited to kind of see how that all plays out. But we can't just talk about our trip here on the episode because we have a game to talk about, but we also do have cuts we need to talk about that were very important. So, like you talked about last week, there was going to be cuts. It was originally supposed to be set for all of Saturday. However, there was, I guess, some teams were just finished early and teams wanted to go ahead and get the cuts done.
Hmm.
So there was some cuts on Friday. Excuse me, on Thursday. Birmingham released their cuts on Friday, and then the rest of the cuts were on Saturday. So let's go and start going over those. This was to get the team down to 50 people. We talked about this last week, how good this roster was, and how it was really hard to kind of look at, for people that, unfortunately would have to make that list. I think the big surprise one for everyone has been Slade Bolden, of course, the wide receiver from Alabama, not just because of his status, because of where he went to college in the state, but oh wow, he seemed to be really heavily promoted, and then all of a sudden he's kind of a surprise cut.
Yeah, there was actually quite a few, honestly, that I saw that were like head scratchers, if that makes sense. Now, Slade, I know we knew that there's gonna be at least two wide receivers. I think like talent wise, these two were definitely in the pool that they were cut candidates, right? But I think the
Yeah,
the the PR wise, definitely uh, the team lost a lot of love for these two cuts. I feel like both Myron Mitchell and Slade Bolden, both Alabama guys through and through, both like were huge faces of the early season of the spring and everything. Um,
hmm
and aside from them, though, I think the biggest head scratch for me was, I guess it's kind of a tie because it's the same reason, but Chauncey Rivers and Bubba Bolden, like two players that we made moves to get, like
yeah,
we had already cut players to get them on the team, and then we decided to cut them anyway. Like it's a questionable thing for me. I'm sure that there was a reason for it. I'm sure, it's a 50-person roster. This is going to be a very, very tight race for every position. But between the Boldens and Chauncey Rivers, it was just and Myron Mitchell, they were all head scratchers for me. Like I assume this week we'll see something. I assume our wide receiver room will be loaded, so it'll probably just be, these two had to be cut, so we had room for the rest of the talent. But yeah,
hmm
but definitely some room for a head scratcher too. So
yeah. And I mean, personally, we mentioned last week, how do you cut some of these guys? I will agree. I feel like maybe you, if you were going to trade for these guys, maybe you make a reason why you want to keep them. So that was a little bit of a kind of a okay thing, but I think about kind of how the circumstances happened to get Chauncey and how that was basically to deal with the 58 roster cut down. So you have to wonder if maybe I hate saying it, but was this maybe kind of a plan all along? Kind of one of those deals. But you know, we have the cut downs. I still believe in the team. I mean, look at this roster and tell me that it's not absolutely insane.
mhm.
It's kind of like okay, do these cuts hurt and sting? Yes, they do. But unless something really bad happens, I don't think they're going to have any long term effect. So that's kind of a good thing when looking at these cuts. So all
Yeah.
right, uh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just want to touch on all the other ones as well. So Cole Cabral, O'Shea Dugas, and like Malik Hall, and I think Henri is the only one that we didn't talk about beforehand. But all those guys too, especially Cabral and Santa Moore, um, they were on the team both last year, and I think that they're very good players. I just think it's like, um, due to the circumstances, I feel like is the only reason they got cut. I feel like these are guys that definitely deserve a spot in the league, but we are one of the better teams in the league, like just even on just paper. And making the 50-man roster was probably a pain in the butt for these guys. So,
Oh yeah. All right. Well, it is now time for the first time this season to go into kind of a game prediction, game preview. So, Scout, I think the question on everyone's mind right now, it's when people are starting to predict because we haven't gotten an official answer. Who do you think now that we are entering into game week? Who do you think is the Stallions starting quarterback? Because right now it seems maybe either between Jamar Smith or Matt Corral.
it's tough. Sorry, I had to respond to a text. But I believe that I think it'll be Matt Corral. I could totally be wrong here. It could be Jamar. I'll end up on somebody's bulletin board no matter what. Um, but I feel like it's more on where do we want the offense to go. I do think that Matt probably has better legs than Jamar, just because, like the running ability is probably better. Not to say that Jamar can't run. We saw that he can run. But if they want something close to Magoo, like closer to, athletic out of the side, scrambles, everything, that would be Matt Corral, but I think that they'll give Jamar. Jamar will throw a pass in Arlington at least. I feel like
Hmm.
that will definitely be a thing. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. I honestly think that if it's a 10-point game or so, either way, if we're winning or losing, I think that they give another person a shot. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, and we've seen a ton of like Adrian Martinez posts and stuff. And I know like
Oh
the
yeah.
social media guys aren't in on the depth chart, but they have like, they have an idea. Like
An idea.
I don't think they would have said Adrian Martinez days to uh kick off if Adrian Martinez didn't have a shot at the starting quarterback position. So but yeah.
Yeah. So it's I don't know. They did put out that weird like quarterbacks posts where like you had Marat Corral on top, Jamar Smith on the bottom, I guess for us left, and then Adrian Martinez on that bottom right. I
Hmm.
wonder if they're not really going to name a starting quarterback, and it's just going to be like, okay, for this drive, we want to run this kind of more offense this drive, because I mean, you technically in football, at least with the rules right now, you don't technically have to really have a starter. You can just kind of throw in whoever you want at quarterback. So,
Mm, I
could
mean, you
we
still have
get
to
as a kind of a
have
goal?
You have to have an or at least at starter. So we would know
Oh
one
yeah,
of the
yeah. I mean,
two.
yeah. So I mean, you get out the depth chart, but at the same time, you can usually switch that.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. Right now, I'm leaning towards probably Jamar being the starter. However, I would not be surprised if Matt is in Arlington on Saturday. So that's kind of like what it's like. It's got to be either one of them. I think Adrian. I think he's going to be unfortunately the emergency QB. But it's like, could we see a scenario happen where maybe someone sits in that third spot and Adrian comes in for second reps? Who knows? So kind of a lot to think about from that perspective.
So
Uh, but now let's kind of get into the game itself, not just talking about the quarterbacks. So the Stallions will be playing they'll be opening their first ever road game to kick off the season. They will be in Arlington. This will be played at Choctaw Stadium. I believe this was also before New Globe Life. This was also the old Globe Life Stadium. Um, Renegades played at the stadium last year, so no kind of change of venue. I'm interested to see what it's like, but as someone who's kind of seen what Old Turner Field was turned into with Georgia State, Was it Georgia? Yeah, Georgia State. And I'm kind of like, could this be a good viewing experience?
So
Maybe.
I've played MLB The Show a lot in the last week since it released, and I played in old Texas just to see like what it looked like back then, and then I've like
Back
put
then, it closed in 2019. It was
what.
converted in 2019.
Yes, but this is the 90s because it's all like okay, MLB The Show has like all these different 90s or ballparks, whatever. Zip.
Okay.
So, and then I put that with pictures like XFL 2020, XFL 2023, and it looks pretty solid. I think like if you're sitting on the away side, it will probably be a less great experience. Um, but like the regular seats, it looks like they upgraded all the seats because they used to be like really bad, and then when they did all the renovations, they renovated everything. Now I think Tadeku would or another role they're playing at Rice, but I think either Rice or Tadeku would probably be a better experience. Meaning both the Houston
Because
stadiums
those are
are
proper football stadiums.
yeah, but I think it'll be an interesting experience, but I don't think it'll be a bad experience. Like I'm hyped for it. Plus, like I'm a sports nerd, so like I'll find something just to like I'm taking a picture. I hope you know I'm taking a picture by the pillars. That was center
Mhm.
field.
Yeah. All right. Well, still, let's kind of talk about the Renegades. Of course, they were the champions last year. However, with that giant asterisk, their regular season record was 4-6.
Mm,
They just they got lucky in the playoffs, a fluke playoff run. I will forever stand by that. In fact,
mm,
I'll even call that a Mickey Mouse championship if you ask me.
yeah.
So you're coming in with not exactly the same team, but a lot of familiar faces at the same time. Scout, and I'm looking at that offensive line for Arlington. Right now, I foresee a very similar record for Arlington at this rate. I see another 4-6 incoming. What's your thoughts on Arlington also?
I think their defense is just as good, if not better, than beforehand. I think their defense was their hallmark. I think their offensive line. I think it will be fine. Like I don't have that many issues with their offensive line. The one issue I do have, and this might bite me in the butt, right? But when you have Lindsey Scott Jr. and you have Holton Allers on your bench, and then you have Luis Perez at your quarterback one, I want to say that like going into this year that Luis Perez, there's no hot seat for quarterbacks, but he has the least amount of leash of any of the starters that are going to be projected starters for week one. Because like if you have two gunslingers and Holton Allers, it sounds like he came into this league assuming that he would start, or at least assuming that he would have a very good chance of starting. So like if we're in the second quarter and Luis Perez hasn't put more than 10 points up, I'm wondering if, they pull the trigger on it and they're like, hey, we want Holton in, we want Lindsey Scott in. But I do like their running back room. It looks very solid. Their receiver core looks okay. I think that they'll definitely have a few that they'll probably have some guy like Lawan Winningham's one of those where I'm like, not a lot of people are talking about him, but he might have that wide receiver two slot with the wide receiver one number type thing. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, and I will say their cut list is quite crazy because they cut Plitt, they cut Bryant, they cut Anderson. Um, and some of those guys, they like you probably would have thought would have made the league, but their quarterback room would contend with Birmingham for being the best in the league, in my opinion, like top to bottom. So
Mm. I I kind of disagree with you on defense. I think their defense right now, paper could change. I could be coming on next week and very much disagreeing with my past self. I think it's right now just kind of there. Um,
hmm
and I'll say this: in the way the UFL rules are set up, unfortunately, defense won't win you a game.
yeah,
It's a scoring man's game. So I think you look at how I'm just saying this. You look at Birmingham's kind of defensive seven, especially versus that Arlington offensive line. I think you're possibly in trouble right there.
yeah.
I all I see is potential weak spots where what are you going to do? Just basically force someone like Luis just basically have to throw the ball or potentially run back even more to try to get a chance.
Yeah.
So, uh, look, I could be completely wrong, but just looking because we don't have any film yet, seeing this team really together.
Hmm.
But if you look at the paper, that is what I see. I see a potential opportunity where Birmingham's defense could absolutely stop Arlington. I'm not going to say basically every drive because I think Arlington has enough weapons that are not offensive line where they can make a difference. But I think you're looking at a potentially a game where Birmingham just basically wears down that Arlington offensive line to the point where it's not fun. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that score wise. I'm saying that just like Luis is basically on the run for a majority of the plays.
Yeah, and to the point of like our offensive line, Derwin Gray is one of the smallest offensive linemen, and he makes me look like a midget. And
Yeah,
also, that's D Gray for some people like me, who I thought that was a completely new player because on all the social media, every time he was referenced, it was just D Gray, and
yeah.
then he's listed as Derwin on all of the UFL things, and I'm just like, but yeah, but like we've never seen Alex Taylor play. I'm not sure if Alex Taylor is a starter for us or if he's a rotational piece, but just height size wise, he's going to be a huge mammoth playing tackle, and if he can get it together, if he can be a great dominant, I'm not sure if he's left or right. I'm not the offensive line guy. I don't know how many times I got to tell y'all, but but if he can get it together, if he can hold down either side, then we're gonna be fine at tackle. But that's another thing. And I know that we can talk about quarterbacks all day, but it's like the all of our quarterbacks are 6'1" and 6'2", right? Like we don't have like a super
Yeah.
tall quarterback. We don't have, your Josh Allen guy, or I think like all of San Antonio's guys are pretty tall. But it's just crazy to me that some of these teams do have taller guys. We have one of the tallest offensive lines in the league, and our quarterback's like 6'1", 6'2". So, but yeah.
Yeah. Um. So now we I think we kind of said both our piece on both sides of the ball. Special teams. I got to go with Chris Blewett. Like, also, I mean, come on, the man was amazing for Pittsburgh last year. He's now with the
Mhm.
Stallions. So now let's kind of talk about Scout. How do you think the game is going to go for between Birmingham and Arlington? What do you think the score is going to end up being like?
I think early on we'll have the advantage. I truly think that. They had a lot of shakeup at the beginning, like that they lost a lot of receivers. Their one piece that will probably bite us in the butt a few times is Sal Cannella. I'm very sad that we couldn't get our hands on Sal, but Sal Cannella is definitely going to be a piece that like we're going to give up 80 yards to Sal probably. But I think overall our defense is going to hold well, and I think our offense, especially now, I will say this as a crazy part, especially if Jamar is out there, I think the offense will flow a lot easier because like if Jamar's out there, the
Hmm.
offense is virtually the same or mostly the same at least. Because
Yeah,
obviously you have CJ out there, you have Ricky Person out there, you got Dion out there, so there are a lot of options that Jamar's used to out there. And the biggest thing is having that trust. Now, I know like Jace was more of he was last year, so Alex was his go-to, right?
hmm.
So I'm not sure if Jamar has that same connection with Jace, but
I think
yeah,
he's going to
but
learn to get that connection real quick.
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I think either of us could go out there and throw a 40-yard bomb to Jace if we really wanted to. I'm joking. Anyways, but yeah, I think we'll have the advantage at first. I feel like at halftime it'll be somewhere 18 or 21 to 10 Birmingham. But then
Hmm.
I think in the second half we start to see like it's a closer score. So I think the final for me 35-28 Stallions.
Hmm. I think we're both very similar on the idea of how the game, at least how the players are going to play. However, I don't see it being that close. I think it is going to be a closer game compared to some Stallions games, but I'm going to say it's actually going to end up being 42-21. I think Birmingham's going to find a few more touchdowns than the Renegades, and I think that this game is going to end up being about not exactly the blow up, but bit of a lopsided lead to end all things. So Man, uh, I'm excited though
Yeah.
because of course you have Arlington, Birmingham to kick things off. I mean, who do you think's going to win Michigan Battlehawks?
That's a tough one. I want to have,
I'm going Michigan.
USFL
I
support.
don't know what the Michigan hate is. I can't see it. I think Michigan's going to surprise a lot of people. I think they're going to be right there with Birmingham.
Um, so here's my thing with Michigan. They have the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
EJ Perry. Loved him. I wish the Jags never got rid of him, honestly. But I don't want to say too much because we play him twice. But other than tight end and other than running back, like running back tight end is fine. But I feel like they need one of these receivers to truly play out of his mind if they want to reach their full potential. And I don't know which receiver that'll be, right? Probably, honestly, probably Trey Quinn. Trey Quinn was everywhere last year. Um, but the defense will play, right? I love having Breland out there, having Gidnap out there, having Levante Taylor out there. I love those guys. But the defense will play, but I think the offense is what's going to kill them or get them there. And that's why I'm saying, like, week one, you're playing St. Louis, and St. Louis is going to bring out McCarron, and they're going to bring out like Shepard,
Okay,
and
I'm
they're
not. I'm
going
gonna
to
interrupt
like.
you. I do not get the Battlehawks hype. I
I
am
just
not
like their
buying into the
offense.
Battlehawks.
I just like their
No,
offense.
I'm sorry. I think the Battlehawks are absolutely going to be like the average of mid again this year. They're going to be like 5-5, 6-4, something like that. And they're of course going to have all the fans going, "Ah, call us law, ah!" And it's just going to be that's that same dog and pony show again. And
All
I'm
I
sorry, the Battlehawks are absolutely going to repeat last year, and they're not going to make the playoffs.
I want by the time they come to Birmingham, I want Brandon Silvers to be playing just as a Sun Belt thing. But
Hmm.
what are the San Antonio DC, right?
Yes, that's up next.
So San Antonio DC, San Antonio just announced, we recorded this Monday, they just announced Chase Garbers as their quarterback one. And I kind of like this pick. At first I was like, but I like the pick. He's a young pick. I honestly think age played a huge factor in this because Flacco and Dormady are 29 and 28 respectively. But he's a young pick. He did play with Las Vegas for a little bit, but I just like the pick. He's a Cal kid. Um, I'm not sure exactly what his potential is, but I think that's the beauty of it, right? I think this is kind of Wade Phillips saying, "Hey, I see a potential with this guy. I don't want to go with the other two because they've already had their time to shine." I know Tom Flacco's new to the league, but he's been in the CFL before. He was with the XFL, or he signed with Houston in December. And but yeah, but it's just a crazy thing. Um, but I like Garbers, and I like their offense. Now, that all that being said, I don't think they're going to beat DC, but I think that they'll have time to learn, time to grow. I do think that they could sneak into that second, or like what is the fourth spot overall, right? I do think they can sneak
Mm.
into the playoffs because they have young talent everywhere. They probably have, to that extent, with their oldest star, I think is Cody Latimer. With me looking at it, I don't think any of Tease Tabor's 28. That's about it. Of anyone
Mm.
being that old and starting for them. So I think that they'll be able to keep a healthy team because usually a younger team means a healthy team. Not always, but usually. But you look at DC, dear Lord, they have
Yeah, I
Te'ama's
mean, come
probably
on,
gonna be their starter,
it's a
and
DC win happening there.
yes, but I wanted to keep it on San Antonio because I do think there is hype from a Bullpen Nation.
The,
There is
the,
potential.
the
It's just not this
potential.
week.
Okay. Well, and finally, the last game of the week, the final game, it's going to be the Memphis Showboats at Houston. Are they at Houston or away? Uh, Hang on.
I'm pretty sure they're at Houston.
I'm pretty sure about that. Hang on. Oh, I just love doing this because I forgot. Hold
Yeah,
on. Yes, they're at Houston.
yeah. So my thing here, I'm not sure if Case Cookies is gonna cook That's my hot take of the week. If anyone asks me my hot take of the week, I don't think Case Cookus is going to cook. Now, do I think he'll play fine down the line? I think he'll play fine, but I think Case is going to have some growing pains. Case is not used to the offense. He wasn't with the Breakers. He wasn't with the Showboats. He was a star. Now, is he a very good player? Are they going to mold the offense around him? Yes, both yes. But does Memphis have the pieces? They have Cookus, they have Victor, they have Jonathan Adams, and they even have Sage Surratt, so they have great pieces. Are they going to put it together week one? I think this is where you know Johnson out in Houston. Um, this might be where home field advantage plays a factor because this is the Roughnecks fan base for the most part, right? Like we're integrating fan
Mhm.
bases, but obviously I think 70 to 80% of the people are probably going to be former Roughnecks fans or whatever, right?
Yeah,
And I think with that, if you fill out Rice, or if you even give me, I consider 50% filled out for spring golf ball, but if you give me 20,000 people at Rice Stadium, I think that's a crazy turnout for Houston because Houston, the Gamblers, have never played a home game, a true home game that is,
yeah.
and they beat the Showboats last year. So I think it was I know that they've had some injuries in camp. I'm not sure how many of those actually affect game day this week. I think we'll learn more about that throughout the week. But I do like their quarterback room. I do like their running back room. I like their receiver room, especially. I love the Isaiah Henney addition there. And I think their defense is going to be solid. Like Odom, Foster, Johnson. Those three guys are going to be like cornerstones for their defense. Everybody else is going to play around them, and I think they'll be fine. But yeah, but I will
All right.
I'll take Houston in this one.
I'm going to take Memphis. Actually, I think Memphis is going to get the win out here. Kind of the big question right now is the status of Mark Thompson. Will he miss this game? Will he be limited in this game? That's kind of been the big question considering his supposed knee sprain. So right now, I'm just kind of everyone's kind of wondering about those waters right there. But all right, Scout, you do have one thing to announce before we end the show, so I'll let you get that out real quick.
Yeah, so I'll probably include the link down below, but there's a link now to it's a Stallions ticket link thing, they're group tickets, but you can buy them individually. Basically, me and Corey Helvey, the ticket director, we were having a conversation. I was like, hey, I was trying to help a group get in because some people I know that watch soccer at Protective, they were like, hey, how do we get tickets to Stallions? And I was like, I think we can get a group ticket. So he gave me a link, and in that link, if you go to that link, you type in charm anyway, not case sensitive, but just type in charm, CHARM, and you get access to every single game, every single ticket. You get to buy it. The only thing that it really does, you do pay face value, but it does eliminate the fees that Ticketmaster would give you or the fees that another ticketing site would give you. So instead of just paying, like somebody earlier this morning, they had paid for two tickets in the end zone, and they're like, "Hey, it was still $22, like that's the normal thing." And then when you looked at Ticketmaster, it was like, "Oh, well, it's $44 plus a service fee plus a stadium fee or something, and then plus tax on top of that." So what their total was $49, and then Ticketmaster's total was $68. So if you're interested, down below, code CHARM and get access to a slightly better deal on tickets. So
All right. Well, Scout, where can people find you as we wrap up the show?
yeah, people can find me at on Twitter at Southern Charm SP, aka Southern Charm Sports, and then on Instagram on just Southern Charm Sports, and also on the real app Southern Charm Sports. So
All right, and you can find me on Twitter or slash X, whatever you like to call it these days, at Stallions UFM. Excuse me. I'm still used to the USFL stuff, but still, be sure to check us out on social media. Be sure to get ready to kind of. I know we might be doing some stuff after the game this Saturday, so be prepared for that and more as we get into the UFL season. But until then, stay safe and enjoy